traveling with a dog simply takes you from point A to point B safely and as efficiently as they can. So the dog's not going to take you up to that trash can and say, hey, look, mom, there's a trash can here. The dog's simply just going to take you right around it.
Welcome to the Blind Mom Life Podcast. I'm your host, Chelsey Painter Davis, blind wife, mother, and pro-life Christian speaker. I want to invite you to dive deep with my special guests and I as we talk conquering disabilities, cherishing motherhood, and choosing life. Are you ready? Action. Wow, it is so exciting and sad to be recording the final episode of season 1 of the podcast. Now, don't worry, we're coming back with season 2. My husband Austin and I just thought it would be best to take a break during the summer so when the fall hits, we can come back bigger and better than ever. I have to say thank you so much to everyone who's been listening, especially those who have been there to support us long before episode 1 ever aired. It has been an incredible experience, and I think I speak for my husband and I both when I say that we did not think this podcast was possible. With my husband's busy work schedule, my disability, our 2 small children, we didn't think we could ever do something like this. But it only happened because of the support of you, our families, our friends, and God carrying us through. And I am so grateful to be on the other side of 19 episodes, looking at it and seeing all of us. We did the impossible. And I am so excited for what's in store of season 2 of the podcast. Now, on to all about guide dogs. Oh my goodness, does my son love dogs. When he is riding in the wagon and he sees a dog on the sidewalk, he loses his mind, yelling, dog, 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 over and over again, trying to get its attention. There is something special about that relationship between humans and dogs. Now, you cat lovers might disagree, but there is just something about a dog. They're so precious and special and fun. Oh my goodness. So I love watching 101 Dalmatians with my kid. This is such an exciting story of dogs doing the impossible when humans can't. It is amazing not only to see Pongo lead his owner Roger into true love with Anita, but also to rescue and bring home the missing puppies who had been stolen by the evil Cruella de Vil. Dogs can do so much, and even some things that humans can't. I learned this firsthand when I got to experience Leader Dogs for the Blind in Michigan during some orientation and mobility training. It was amazing what I learned there, but one of my favorite things was on the final day, my orientation and mobility specialist, Maggie, let me work with a real guide dog named Lucy. Lucy was a Labrador and she was so fun. My mind was blown with everything going on in her little brain and how she could take me down the sidewalk, avoid cars, and not just that, I could say things like find a door, find a chair, and Lucy knew what I meant. She could do what I couldn't do, and it was absolutely amazing. So for this special episode today, I have my new friend Alyssa, a guide dog mobility instructor from Leader Dogs for the Blind in Michigan. She's going to share with us all about guide dogs, and I am so excited for you to get to hear her. All right, Alyssa, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
So my name's Alyssa Otis. I work at Leader Dogs for the Blind in Rochester Hills, Michigan. I've worked there since 2012, and the first 10 and a half years I was a GDMI, or a guide dog mobility instructor. So I was actually somebody who would do the formal training with the dogs, match them with their handler, and then teach them how to use that dog. And then for the last year and a half, I've kind of stepped out of that role a little, and now I work in outreach as the outreach specialist. And now I get to go and tell people about what we do at Leader Dogs. So it's just fantastic.
That is really awesome. How did you first get involved in guide dogs. That's such like a small niche of a
Yeah.
career. What drew you into that?
Well, I've always loved dogs, and the more I've worked at Leader Dog, the longer I've worked there, I realize that we're more a people organization than a dog organization, but the dogs are what draw people a lot of the times. So one time my mother, I think I was, gosh, 9 or 10, and we were driving by Leader Dog, and I said, oh, I really want to stop and take a look. Can we go and do a tour? And so my mother pulled in, and a lovely gentleman gave us a tour. He's actually still working there today. So that was, gosh, 25 years ago or so now. And I just knew from that day forward that that's where I wanted to work. So I went into school to focus on the people portion. And I got a psychology major with American Sign Language minor so that I could also work with our deaf blind clients. So knowing the dogs and knowing that I love dogs really helped draw me in, but then working with the people is what's kept me there.
Wow, that is really, really cool. So, what exactly is a guide dog there for? Like, there's a lot of blind people use their cane. You don't always see them with a dog. What is the difference there, and what asset can the dog bring?
Yeah. So the amount of people that actually use a dog guide is super small. And there's a lot of reasons for that. So the main difference between the dog and the cane is how you're traveling. So with a cane, you're getting a ton of tactile feedback as you travel. So you're walking down the street, you feel a trash can, you go, oh, there's a trash can, I have to move around it. Whereas traveling with a dog simply takes you from point A to point B safely and as efficiently as they can. So the dog's not going to take you up to that trash can and say, hey, look, mom, there's a trash can here. The dog's simply just going to take you right around it. So a lot of people notice that they get places quicker with a dog, and they also travel curb to curb. So the dog will start at one curb, then listen to the handler's direction, whether it be forward, left, or right, and they'll make their way to that following curb as safely and effectively as possible.
So, when you say it takes you from A to B, like, is that just curb to curb? Can you like tell your guide dog to take you to Starbucks? Like, how does this work? How does
Ah,
this function?
Wouldn't that be great? I always tell people it'd be so nice if you could just pick up the handle and say forward, find Starbucks or find McDonald's. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. So it really is up to the handler to know their environment. So that's something that often gets overlooked when people are interested in guide dogs is they think I can just grab the handle and all of my travel, problems will go away. Not the case. So say I wanted to go to Starbucks. I myself have to know, okay, I leave my house. I get to the first curb, then I have to go 2 more blocks, then I turn left, I cross a busy street, then I go 1 more block to the right. So I've mentally mapped that out. Now it's my job to tell the dog forward, right, left, whatever direction that they have to go in. And the dog basically listens to me and keeps me safe along that travel. So avoids all of those obstacles, avoids vehicles. And one other thing that a dog does that a cane doesn't necessarily do is if I make, as the handler, a wrong decision. So if I tell the dog to go cross the street and I tell the dog to go forward, the dog should, in theory, listen to me and go. But if it's not safe, they actually won't. So it's something called intelligent disobedience. So we want the dog to listen to us all the time, but we also want them to disobey us when we make a wrong decision. So if I, like I said, am trying to cross that street, I tell the dog forward, forward, the dog's not going. There's probably a reason. The dog's then going to wait for it to be safe and then continue on with what I asked him to do. So that's one of the things that a dog does do that a cane doesn't. Although you don't have to
Okay,
clean up after a cane. So,
that is very true. My cane fits in my purse too, which is nice.
yeah.
So are you this do you also teach people to blind people to use a cane, or is there a difference in the training that happens between guide dog and cane if not all blind people use a guide dog?
Yeah, absolutely. So Leader Dog is fantastic because we are an organization that also has an orientation and mobility program. So in order to come in for a guide dog, you need to have those white cane skills. You can get those in your home area through the city, through the government, but we know that sometimes those are hard services to get. There's just not enough people teaching it. There's a lot of red tape when it comes to do you qualify for those services? So Leader Dog also offers those services completely free of charge. And we have a group of, I want to say it's got to be like 11 certified orientation and mobility specialists on staff. So for short, we call them COMs. So those COMs are the ones that teach that long white cane training. And we have a 1 week long program. So you can come to Leader Dog and practice for this 1 week with a certified orientation mobility instructor to learn how to use the white cane, whether a dog is your end goal or not. So there are some people that just don't want a dog. Those that do, we highly suggest getting that long white cane training first.
So, how do you decide if a dog is right for you, if just the cane is right for you? What plays
Yeah.
into that decision of whether or not to bring a dog home?
There are so many things that play into that decision. The number one thing we tell people is make sure that you want the dog. Make sure it's not something that your family is saying you should get a dog or your doctor is saying you should get a dog. Make sure that it's something you want. Another thing to remember is it's a lifestyle change. So for some people that have pets, it's not as big of a change, but it's still slightly different because if you're going somewhere for a whole day with your dog, now you need to think about I'm going to bring food, I have to bring poop bags, I have to bring, a bag of gear. Whereas with your cane, like you said, it can just fold up and put it in your purse, put it in your backpack, no big deal. So just thinking, are you ready for that responsibility? Because it truly is a huge responsibility. Are you okay traveling without that tactile feedback? So I've been a GDMI for about 12 years now, and I always tell people if I lost my vision, I don't know if I would use a dog myself. I love that tactile feedback. I'm very type A. So I like to know that there's a trash can that I'm walking around as opposed to the dog simply taking me around it. However, some people prefer just to go quick. So it's really, a personal preference, but definitely something that if you're unsure, if you're on the fence, you can call any organization that has guide dogs and ask them to talk to you about it, answer some questions about it. Really, you want to be as informed as you can be before you make that decision. But on the flip side, there's also some people that say, yes, I really want a guide dog. And they come in to lead a dog and we're giving them a dog. And then partway through, they say, you know what? This actually isn't for me. And that's completely fine too. Sometimes you don't know that it's not for you until you're in the thick of it. So it's really just a personal preference, but it's definitely a decision you don't want to take lightly.
What are some red flags with your own personal lifestyle that might be indicative that a dog isn't really the best resource for you? Like, are they good around kids? Do you have to be
Yeah.
using them on a daily basis or a weekly basis? How do you judge that?
Yeah, so there's not a ton of red flags, but there are things that a dog needs. So you do have to work them every day. We understand there's going to be days when maybe you're sick or it's snowing outside or it's just too hot to go out, and you have to do something else with them in the home just to kind of keep their brain busy. But generally, we like you to get them out every single day and work them. Your lifestyle is something to really pay attention to. So if you're in college and you're enjoying college life and you're going to sports games and you're going to the bar and you're going to, just a bunch of different places and rock concerts, you have to think, is a dog really going to fit in with that lifestyle? Is that going to be a safe environment for a dog? Perhaps you travel a lot. And not everywhere is conducive to taking a dog. Perhaps you have to travel because you work in a factory. And so you have to travel around to different factories to do your job. And it's just not safe to have the dog in that situation. So nothing crazy. You can have whatever pets you want. We've given people dogs that have had horses and birds and cats and other dogs and dogs with people that have children. Our dogs are great with children. They're great with all other animals. It's really just, will this dog fit into your lifestyle? And something else you want to think too, this is more with the younger crowd, is that is a dog going to fit into my lifestyle for those next 8 to 10 years? So as somebody who is, more established, I have my job, I've got my home, I'm not changing every single day. If I got a dog, they could last those 8 to 10 years in my lifestyle. If I'm in college, my life is going to change a lot in those 8 to 10 years. So is this something that I want to go with me through that change? So that's just another thing to think about is you're not just thinking about today, you're thinking about that entire working life of that dog.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Could
Yeah.
you tell us about some of the transformations you've seen in your work of uniting a visually impaired person with a guide dog? Some of those good stories that you can remember, how it can really change someone.
Yeah, I've got two stories that really stick out to me. One was this lovely lady. She had never had a dog before, so I gave her her first dog, and she liked to travel a little bit, but not a crazy amount. She came, got her dog, went home. I think she said she's been to 36 countries since she had that dog.
Oh my goodness.
I know. I'm like, I'll be your next guide dog. Take me. She has lost about 70 pounds or so by just getting
From
out
the
and
activity?
walking. doing
That's
activity, getting
fantastic.
out. Before, yes, she had those O&M skills, those long white cane skills, but she wasn't getting out and going and doing. Now with a dog, she was like, I have a reason to get out. I feel like this dog needs to do these things. And for her, it just worked to motivate her. Um, Another one is I gave a dog to a young girl who I still stay in contact with. She's fantastic. But her brother is also visually impaired. And he was very anti dog. He was like, I don't want one. It's not something that interests me. Well, after I gave his sister one, he decided to come in for a dog. He was a freshman in college. He wasn't very active with his community in college. He felt pretty isolated. After he got this dog, he became, I believe it's vice president of his fraternity, his law fraternity. Became so much more active in school, and he ended up going off to law school and just graduated. So, those
That
two
is so
stories,
cool.
truly, I get chills, thinking about just how these dogs have changed their lives and changed so many people's lives. Those are just two of the many, many stories.
So the dogs really work as like a travel aid and maybe an inspiration for traveling. Do you think they can be a
For sure.
good social icebreaker between visually impaired people and sighted people? Because I know often if I'm out in public, if I'm not actively using my cane, people don't realize that I'm visually impaired. I've even had someone
Right.
argue with me before and think I was kidding when I said I was blind. And
Right.
then honestly, even sometimes when I am using my cane, people don't understand that that signifies that I'm visually impaired. Do you think that the dog like maybe makes blind people more confident or even more approachable for sighted people?
Absolutely. Like you said with the cane, sometimes people can kind of avoid somebody working with a cane. Step off the sidewalk, not say anything. With a dog, you're going to get a little bit more social interaction. So that is something to think about too of do I want a dog or not? Am I okay with more social interaction? So people are going to come up to you. Oh, what a pretty dog. Tell me about your dog. What is that dog for? Can I pet your dog? So it definitely, definitely is an icebreaker. You can make, I know a lot of our younger kids, college kids, that take their dog to college find that that's a really good way that they kind of make that core group of friends because they see the dog and then they come over and then they meet the human.
That makes a lot of sense. So, what steps would a newly blind person or even a not newly blind person have to go through to seek out a guide dog? What
Yeah, so
parameters do they need to hit beforehand?
So it's different at every organization. So what I like to describe to everybody is dog guide is kind of that overall type of dog, and then leader dog is what you would call a brand of it. So you might hear leader dog, you might hear guide dog for the blind, you might hear seeing eye dog. They're all dog guides. They're just from different organizations. Most of those organizations have the same kind of parameters, but I'll definitely speak on leader dogs. So we will potentially give a dog to somebody as long as they're 16 years or older. They have to be seizure free for 6 months. They have to have those good orientation and mobility skills. So they have to be able to cross streets independently, travel independently. We're not looking for perfection. It's okay if you veer in a crossing, but can you get back on track? So those are some of the main three. We're also looking is, do you have the financial ability to care for a dog? So everything that Leader Dog does is completely free. We bring people into Rochester Hills completely free. We give them either that dog or that long white cane completely free. But once you go home with a dog, you are responsible for vet care as well as food. So we say that's about $900 or so a year. So you have to also make sure that you have that. And you have to have enough work for the dog to do. So you can't say, yeah, I go to church every Sunday, but that's really, other than that, I just stay in my house. We want to know, even if it's going to CVS or going to the bank, that you're going out and doing things so that the dog doesn't get bored. So those are the main things that we're looking for. But the number one is definitely that independent travel.
What kind of training goes into the dog, into getting it ready for working with a visually impaired person?
So we breed all of our own dogs. So we have our own breeding colony of about 70 dogs right now. We breed them, and then those puppies are raised by volunteers for one whole year. So they're raised from about 7 weeks to about 12 months or so. And they are responsible for taking that dog out, making sure it knows obedience cues, making sure that it walks nicely on a leash, exposing it to their son's band practice or the grocery store. And so after that first year, they come back to formal training. So that's when somebody like myself, a guide dog mobility instructor, will take the dog. I work with that dog for 4 months. So a lot of people say, oh my gosh, that doesn't really seem like a lot of time, 4 months for a guide. It's a lot of repetition. So we start out small. We introduce the dog to the harness. We introduce the dog to some basic commands, some basic cues. Then we work our way up to traffic responsibility and making sure you can stay safe around traffic. And then we work on distractions. We work on public transportation. We work on stairs and escalators and elevators and truly anything that you can think that a dog might need once they go home with somebody. So we spend 4 months training these dogs. And throughout that 4 months, we get to decide at any point if a dog's not going to make it into our program. So we each start out with about 8 dogs or so, each instructor. And by the end, we end up with about 4. So about half of our dogs don't make it for various reasons. Could be that they are distracted by squirrels. That's a big one. Could be that they don't like stairs. Or perhaps it's just not the job for them. If a dog shows us in certain ways that it doesn't want to do the job, we're not going to make the dog do the job. I would hate doing a job that somebody forced me to do for 8 to 10 years. So why would we do that for them? So over those 4 months, we're really going through all of that training, weeding out different dogs. And then once we think that we have that final product, we're also doing blindfold practice where the instructors put on a blindfold to really essentially test and make sure that that dog is ready to go to somebody. And then after those 4 months, we match them with that individual.
Wow. So what does it, you said that you use volunteers to help kind of raise the dog for the first year and encourage them with like real world exposure. What does it take to be a volunteer? Like who kind of fits into that and how many do you guys see for that?
So we have about 1,000 volunteers at Leader
Oh,
Dog.
wow.
Yeah, we only have about 200 employees and or team members and 1,000 volunteers. 500 of those are our puppy raisers. What do you need in order to be a successful puppy raiser? Nothing. That's the best part. You can be a single person. You can be a person with a family. We also have people in prisons raising dogs, in correctional facilities, people on college campuses. We have an incredible puppy development department that works directly with the volunteers, teaching them how to do all of these skills. So you're not just handed a dog and say, see you in a year, good luck. You have an entire manual that talks to you about how to expose them to things, what things you should expose them to at what age. There's also puppy meetings. Almost every single week you can go to a meeting. You have to go to at least one a month. So about 12 throughout your time puppy raising, but you have an opportunity to go to so many more. So it's a good opportunity to go to those, talk with a puppy counselor. They can give you more tips. So really, you just have to want to help and be understanding that you are raising this dog to give this dog to somebody to hopefully change their lives. But you can volunteer if you guys, wherever you are, all over the U.S., you can volunteer.
Oh, wow. That is so fun and so exciting. Like, that sounds like the best job right there is standing there being
Yeah,
like,
well,
"Puppy for a year."
and the best part is if the dog that you raise graduates and goes to a client, you have the opportunity to meet that client.
Oh,
If
wow. I did
if the
not
client
realize
wants,
that.
which I've never had anybody say no. Usually it's nice. They exchange some photos and give some dog toys and it's a good time.
That is so fun. So we've talked a lot about the visually impaired, the client, and the dog. What? Tell us a little bit about you, the trainer. So
Yeah.
you got really interested into this when you were a young girl. What is the pathway to becoming a guide dog mobility instructor? Does that overlap you as a certified orientation and mobility specialist, or is it a separate track?
Oh, I wish that would be incredible if I could be a comms also. So to be a GDMI, and this goes for all of the schools that are accredited by the IGDF, the International Guide Dog Federation. So it is a 3-year apprenticeship. So most organizations like to see that somebody has a bachelor's degree. That can be really in anything. The things that you mostly see are teaching, animal science, psychology, but we also have some, offshoots. We have somebody who has one in accounting, somebody who has one in architecture. So it's really a lot of, they just want to see that you're able to go through a 4-year program, learn and develop. So then you go to a guide dog school or organization and you do a 3-year apprenticeship. So at all of the schools, or at least at Leader Dog, I can definitively say it is a paid apprenticeship. So you are working directly with guide dog mobility instructors, dogs, and clients. Your first year, it's a lot of observation. It's a lot of following and learning how to do the job. You're reading books, you're writing papers, you're taking online classes. And then at the end of that first year, you take an oral exam in front of a panel of guide dog mobility instructors. They ask you questions and you have to answer what you would do. Once you pass level 1, you go to level 2, which is very similar, but a little bit less observation, a little bit more hands-on. And then level 3, even more so. That's where you're pretty much on your own, but people are there if you have questions. Once you pass your 3rd year exam, again, an oral exam, then you're considered a guide dog mobility instructor. And how it works at Leader Dog is if you go through your apprenticeship at Leader Dog, you are automatically offered a job as a guide dog mobility instructor there. It is different than a certified orientation and mobility specialist, a COMS. That is actually a master's degree that you can get at a university or at a college. That is not something that they offer with guide dogs yet. So that is something separate. And we do have some COMs that are also GDMIs. So some people became COMs first with a master's and then decided to do their apprenticeship and become a GDMI, and vice versa. Some did their apprenticeship with a GDMI and then decided to go back to school to get their master's for orientation and mobility.
So what was this program like for you? Was it very challenging? Was it fun? What are some of your takeaways from the 3-year apprenticeship?
It was all of the above. I mean, the challenges didn't stop. Something was new every single day, whether it was, why is my dog spinning to the left when I'm trying to just walk straight? Like, what is going on? And learning, oh, maybe I'm holding the harness wrong, or maybe, I should be treating them further over to the right. There's just so many different things that I learned, but there's also a lot of really fun activities that we did. So one of the activities that I always talk about is our blindfold experience. So during our 3-year apprenticeship, we have to wear a blindfold and go into class, as we call it, as if we're a client who's going to be receiving a dog. So we put on a blindfold and we go in for 5 days. We are issued a
Oh,
dog.
wow.
We don't know who the dog is. We know nothing about the dog. We have to keep that blindfold on unless we're sleeping or showering. And we have to learn to work with this dog. And honestly, it was one of the best experiences for so many reasons. But I think the number one is that you build a lot of empathy. So, for example, even just trying to get around our residence building, it is set up beautifully. It's got tactile domes and it's got braille everywhere, but it's still difficult. If you've never been there and you haven't explored it, it's still a new environment to learn. So under blindfold, I personally, as an instructor, had seen the building. So I should have known where I was going. Very, very difficult with a blindfold. So learning some things that, there's a bump right across from your door. That's something that I can tell my next client that comes in for a dog that might help them orient themselves to the building better. I get it. Room 1 and 2 are right next to each other. That's something I can tell my client that'll help them when they come for a dog. Same with how to do obedience with a dog. When you're under blindfold, you don't just necessarily look down and know that the dog is sitting. So practicing things like hands-on dog work, putting that dog into a sit and feeling and making sure that they're sitting. So just learning a lot of the skills that our clients are going to have to do and ways that they're going to have to do it was super, super beneficial. Another thing that I found a little bit challenging under blindfold was eating under blindfold with a dog, because I was so focused on what my dog was doing while I'm trying to eat. So it just gave me some little tips and tricks that I could tell people when they come for a dog to hopefully make their time a little bit easier. But overall, the apprenticeship is just, I've learned so much. I've worked with so many incredible people. And the best part is they're always getting new apprentices. So we're getting new generations of GDMIs every year.
Wow, that's really cool. So, what would you say to the newly blinded person who's just at this point so overwhelmed, so unsure? They feel like their diagnosis means they're going to be stuck at home for the rest of their lives. Can you offer any words of hope or encouragement to just help them get through this
Yeah.
unsettling diagnosis?
Number one is look for resources. There are so many resources out there that are free that people want to offer. If you can't find resources, contact Leader Dog, contact anybody. Hopefully we can get you other resources. It does not by any means mean that you have to stay in your house and that you can't go anywhere and you can't do anything. We have clients that are lawyers and clients that, like I said, have traveled to 36 countries. So as long as you have that good support system around you and you're getting those resources, there's really no limit to what somebody can do. Everything that somebody sighted can do, somebody visually impaired can do, but just in a different way. So, we've had people who are visually impaired be guide dog mobility instructors, so there's really truly no limit as long as you are surrounding yourself with those resources and that support that you need.
Thank you so much, Alyssa. I really appreciate you getting to share about Leader Dog and the amazing
Yeah,
work that you guys are doing.
absolutely.
We are not meant to do life alone. There are so many challenges that we face. Maybe yours is not visual impairment like mine is. Maybe you don't need to ask for help from a seeing eye dog. But I have a feeling that you have limitations as well. They may not be medical, but maybe they're emotional. Maybe they're financial. Maybe there's something else entirely. But we can find so much hope from others if we humble ourselves and ask for help. Time for Ask Me Anything. So the first question I have for you today is, how does a white cane tell a blind person where they are going? So I can tell where I'm going through my white cane by the vibrations and sound the cane is making as I travel. So for example, I have a rolling tip on the bottom of my cane as I sweep it back and forth on the ground in front of me. I can feel the difference in my hand from sidewalk to parking lot because a sidewalk concrete is typically smoother than the asphalt of a parking lot. So when I'm holding the cane in my right hand, I can feel a vibration, a jumping, a bumping up and down as I trail the parking lot. And then it suddenly gets a lot lessened when I move over to the sidewalk. This is not a skill that you have day one when a cane is placed in your hand. It does take some detection and practice, but it is easily developed, and soon you can quickly tell those differences. The parking lot's very jumpy and bumpy, the sidewalk's very smooth. They make different sounds as the tip is rolling across the ground. Also, when my cane bumps into things, like, for example, if I'm using a public restroom, I can typically find the trash can very quickly by sweeping my cane around on the floor. When I hear a plastic hollow sound, that's the trash can. When I hear a thick smacking sound, that's probably the door to get out. It makes all these different cues in the vibrations and the sounds of the cane, and it does take practice. It's best to work with a certified orientation and mobility specialist. They will teach you quick tricks, and these skills help you break bad habits with the cane. It's very important, but you can have so much information coming at you just from sweeping the cane around and bumping it into things. The next question I have for you is, what are some things that were easier as a blind person than you thought they would have been? Cleaning. Cleaning doesn't seem to be that difficult when I choose to target an area. Okay, full disclosure, do I clean everything in my apartment all the time? Do I think to clean everything in my apartment all the time? Absolutely not. But when I decide on a space that I'm going to clean, I know how to do it just by feel. So I'll tell you how I clean my kitchen sink. I can't stand grimy, dirty, nasty kitchen sinks. It's gross. It grosses me out. So what I like to do on a good night with the kids is, after I'm done loading the dishwasher, I will spray some soap into the sink, and I will take my little sponge and I will scrub the sides until I feel a lot less resistance. Now, granted, I kind of have an idea about how long that takes based on the regular use of our kitchen sink. However, it is really easy, once I rinse the soap suds away, to just run my hand on the sink and feel for dirt and grime, just like when I'm cleaning a dish. Or when I'm making my bed, I just feel the blankets to see if they've been smoothed out. There's a lot of things you can do when you're fully oriented in your space, in your home. You know what you're looking for. You will surprise yourself on how well you can clean if you take the time and you put in the effort. If you want to see more content from me, you can follow me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, X, or you can check out my website, chelseapainterdavis.com. That is a great place to sign up for my newsletter or recommend a friend for the podcast. Do you know someone with an inspiring story? I would love to hear about it. Also, if you like what I do and you want to see me at one of your events, you can click on the Book Now tab of the website and submit a speaking request. I would love to connect with you. Thank you so much for hanging around through the end of the episode. I hope we have shown you today that all life is worth living. Just like in the book of Esther, where God paints a beautiful portrait from the background, God is painting a beautiful portrait with your life, and we can learn so much from each other if we share our stories. Whenever it feels like the darkness is pressing in, just remember the words of Jesus Christ in John chapter 9. As long as I am in the world, I am the light.
What do you want to tell the world?
About God.